And welcome back to another CBB Talk with your boy Will Dickinson. Today we got the SEC preview going. I got my Arkansas shirt on, so you know that I'm ready to talk about some SEC basketball. And the SEC this year has been very interesting. We're going to hand out some awards, and then we'll go through the tournament, which starts on Wednesday and ends on Sunday. Hopefully this game will mean something because most times it doesn't. But the SEC, came into the year. Kentucky was one of the favorites to win the national championship. There was doubt parts of the season when I doubted. Most people doubted they would even make it. They ended up, Kentucky's a tournament team, and Alabama was the team who went through a lot of controversy, but ended up dominating this league from start to finish. But first, let's go look at these awards because the SEC, the awards weren't too hard to give out, honestly. But there's a lot of good players in this conference and a lot of guys who didn't make my player of the year race or my transfer year that were great transfers, great players. So let's get into these awards. I'm going to go, share my screen, do the normal thing. If you haven't, go watch my previous 3 conferences, and then Big East will come out after this. So this one's going to be coming out Tuesday night, and then Wednesday morning you'll get the Big East one. And then so this morning the Big 12 one got posted, and the Big 10 one was already out, and the ACC one was out yesterday. So go watch those if you haven't. But it's going to be the same format as those if you have watched it. So I'm going to go share my screen right now. All right, so here it is, the SEC awards and predictions. So you guys know there's 4 awards. So let's go look at this first award for the SEC, which is the Freshman of the Year, Anthony Davis. Of course, Anthony Davis won Player of the Year in his freshman year, was the number 1 overall draft pick, and won a national championship. So this has to be the Anthony Davis SEC Freshman of the Year award. And here are your 3 nominees. Do 3 nominees for each one. So here are your 3 nominees for the Anthony Davis Freshman of SEC Freshman of the Year. Cason Wallace, Kentucky. Brandon Miller, Alabama. And Anthony Black of Arkansas. All 3 wings guards have gone through a lot of different circumstances this year. Cason Wallace is a guy who, came into this, was a highly touted prospect, was starting out in night 1, and he was a kind of an off-ball guard with Savio Wheeler. And then once he went down, Cason Wallace took over this point guard role, and ever since he's been in that role, Kentucky's been on a roll since that midpoint where they were struggling, where they were not thought to make the tournament. They came in and played with a lot of heart, and Cason Wallace brings a new dynamic to this team, gives him a lot of scoring threat, a good defender at the point of attack there. So Cason Wallace has done an amazing job for Kentucky all year, and especially in SEC play. Brandon Miller, I think everyone knows, honestly, who this award will go to. But Brandon Miller, man, he's gone through a lot of controversy, and he might not be a fan favorite, but you can't deny what this guy does on the basketball court. As a freshman, he came in with not being the preseason freshman player of the year. Of course, everyone was like Nick Smith. He's not on this list because of injury. But Brandon Miller played this year, and every game has came out and just been the best player on the court. He is a guy who can do it from every angle, any place on the court, and people compare him to a Jabari Smith from last year, but he can do more with the ball. He has a bigger bag. He's probably a better defender and just better with the ball in his hands. He shoots a 3 amazing and will dunk. He has a lot of posterizers this year, and as a freshman player, that's what you want. Yes, he's not had the greatest off-court things, but right now he's still playing. And he's playing like better than almost any player in the whole nation. And Anthony Black was supposed to be that secondary guy behind Nick Smith this year as a freshman, and he had to take on that lead guard role most of the year with Nick Smith being out. And he's a great facilitator, and he's definitely a raw prospect, but I think can be really good in the league, like a Josh Giddey type if he can develop more of an offensive game. But he's such a good distributor, good rebounder for a guard. And, Arkansas has had a little bit of a disappointing year, but they can still make a run in the tournament, and Anthony Black will play a huge factor in that. But I think everyone knows who the Anthony Davis Freshman of the Year award will go to. Brandon Miller. We've already talked a lot about him, but by and away, the best freshman in the whole country this year. And he will be up there for National Player of the Year. For sure. We might do another award show at the end of the year after conference, after the whole tournament, just talking about my National Player of the Year, the conference tournament MVP, all this awards, but this is the SEC freshman year is obviously Brandon Miller. I don't think there's need to be much more said about it. The transfer year, this is the Walker Kessler Award. Last year, Walker Kessler, he had instant impact for that Auburn team, got him a 2 seed in the tournament, and now look what he's doing in the Utah Jazz. His skills transferred perfectly. He's a great rim protector, and he's now the heir to the He's the heir to the Rudy Gobert era. That was a tough sentence to say in Utah, and he's done that perfectly. So he will be the name of the transfer of the year. So let's meet your nominees for the Walker Kessler SEC Transfer of the Year. Antonio Reeves, Kentucky. John A. Broome, Auburn. Ricky Council IV, Arkansas. Again, all these players have came up in situation. They started from a place where they weren't, highly talented prospects, didn't go to big schools, and they've made their way up. Antonio Reeves started his first 3 years at Illinois State, and now look at him in Kentucky. He just dropped 37 points to beat Arkansas in their last game. He stepped up these last month and been Kentucky's best player. He's averaging almost 15 points this year, 13th in the SEC in points per game. And he's just been straight up a bucket for this team. And he's gone to that starting role and played amazing for Kentucky. John A. Broome, a guy who started at Morehead State. Another guy came up there, and this year was amazing. He's not played as much minutes recently for Auburn, but he started off the year amazing, and Auburn's a tournament team, and that's mostly because of the play that John A. Broome does inside. He's been really good. And Ricky Council, the Wichita State transfer, his came in. Now he is third in the league in points per game. He's Arkansas's best player, a guy who was underrated going into the year, was supposed to be a third, fourth option on this team. He's taken over that one option. He can bring up the ball. He can play the four. He can play anywhere on the court. He can shoot the 3 ball, and he's just shown his impact throughout our Arkansas season. This is a really tough one to give out to, but let's see who my Walker Kessler SEC Freshman of the Year award will go to. Ricky Council IV. I mean, he's the best player on their team by I wouldn't say a wide margin, but he's been the best player on the team throughout the year. He's had to take the number one option on Arkansas with Nick Smith being out, and he's done that really well. And this team will make it to the NCAA tournament, and he'll be a key factor in that. And again, all those guys came up, but from Wichita State to Arkansas, he took that leading scoring role, and he's third in the SEC in points per game. So it's transferred really well. So Ricky Council is your transfer year in the SEC. Next up is Coach of the Year. This is the Billy Donovan Award. He's won 2 Coaches of the Year, 2 national championships for Florida, and now he's coaching in the NBA for the Bulls. So let's see your Coach of the Year nominees for the Billy Donovan Award in the SEC. Nate Oates, Alabama. Buzz Williams, Texas A&M. Dennis Gates, Missouri. All 3 guys finished top 4 in the league. Of course, Nate Oates, number 1 in the league. Buzz Williams, number 2 for Texas A&M. And Dennis Gates in Missouri. All 3 guys have exceeded expectations, done an amazing job. Buzz Williams and Nate Oates finished 1-2 in their conference respectively, and only 4 for Dennis Gates. Dennis Gates in this first year turning Missouri from a team that was not usually making the tournament to a team now that is going to be in the tournament for sure and has been playing really good, can make a run this SEC tournament, which I'm very excited to see. And Buzz Williams in the second year after last year maybe was on the bubble, barely missed the tournament, and then this year will be in for sure. It's really good. And of course, Nate Oates does an amazing job at Alabama. So here is your winner for Billy Donovan Award for SEC Coach of the Year. Nate Oates. Nate Oates is your Coach of the Year, and I understand it's a little controversial with the off-court situations going on, but the reason it's Nate Oates is he's taken the philosophy of no mid-range jumpers. We're taking layups, close shots in the paint, or threes, and it's translated perfectly. While yes, that can leave Alabama susceptible to big upsets or getting blown out, but more than often, it's them blowing out teams. They beat teams like 50 in SEC play this year. It's because they get hot. Of course, they have Brandon Miller, who's turning to a star, but they have Mark Sears, Jaden Bradley, Mark Sears from the transfer portal, Jaden Bradley, a freshman, Noah Clowney, a freshman. They got Bediako back. So they have a lot of players that, had smaller roles or have gone up or are new players, and they've all came perfectly. And Nate Oates, it will lead this team to a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, which just shows they were preseason number 5 in the SEC, and now they're finished first and will most likely be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So he definitely deserves it. He deserves it. But let's get on to the biggest award, which is the Shaquille O'Neal Player of the Year. The Shaquille O'Neal Player of the Year. Shaq won it 2 times at his time in LSU and was the National Player of the Year. So he deserves it. I mean, it's Shaq, dude. So Shaq's a legend. Everyone loves Shaq. He'll be Shaq's Player of the Year. So here are your 3 nominees. This is a really tough one. I was down, but there's a lot of players that could have made this list, and only 3 could. So let's show them. Brandon Miller, Alabama. Oscar Tshiebwe, Kentucky. And Wade Taylor IV from Texas A&M. We've talked a lot about Brandon Miller already, so we're not gonna, keep talking about him. Let's talk about Oscar Tshiebwe, the reigning National Player of the Year. Of course, he was the SEC Player of the Year. And yes, he's taken a back step. He's averaging 16 points and 13 rebounds. Still leads the league in conference and leads the conference in rebounds. And 4th in scoring. And yes, he wasn't as good as last year. His numbers are down, but he's still a dominant force in there. And Kentucky's one of the best teams in the conference. And when he's playing like the best player, this team can beat anyone. Yes, he's taken a back in scoring a little bit, right? He isn't as efficient and he doesn't get as much shots up. But I think Kentucky's taking a new perimeter type play style with Antonio Reeves, Case Smallage, CJ Frederick, Obi Toppin. And I think this will help Kentucky down the stretch in games, and I think they can make a deep run. Of course, last year they got upset, but with Oscar Tshiebwe, he's still in the finalists for SEC Player of the Year, so it wasn't a terrible year for Tshiebwe, just not as good as last. And then Wade Taylor's taking a great jump this year. He's the best player on A&M, another 4th, and this team's the 2 seed in the SEC, can make a big run. He jumped up in points this year from his freshman year. As a sophomore, it's just really cool to see he doubled his points per game. He's more efficient this year. He can hit the 3 ball now. He's a better playmaker. This dude just got way better from his sophomore year. He's probably the breakout player of the year, and he's leading Texas A&M to a tournament appearance, and that's always amazing to see. So here it is. Who is your Shaquille O'Neal SEC Player of the Year? It's Brandon Miller. I've already gave him so much flowers, but he's just an amazing player. This dude's going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. He does everything on the court. He's a better Jabari Smith. I know it's been a tough year for this Alabama team with off-court stuff, but you can't deny what he does on court. He's such a good player, and he definitely deserves. I mean, he's going to be up there for National Player of the Year, even though he wasn't even a finalist for the Wooden Award because of the off-court stuff, but everyone knows Brandon Miller is your SEC Player of the Year. So Alabama won 3 out of the 4 awards. I'm sorry, but when you're the best team by a wide margin in a conference, you're going to have most of the awards. So I'm going to get into this bracket, and we'll go from there. So here is the awards, or not the awards, the bracket for the SEC 14-team thing. The favorites. Alabama is probably the overwhelmingly favorite, and I think everyone would say that in Texas A&M and Kentucky and maybe Tennessee. And then the bubble teams, I would say Auburn is not a bubble team. That win against Tennessee, I think, puts them in, even if they lose to Arkansas. I would say Arkansas is a bubble team, and Mississippi State's the bubble team. And Vanderbilt could make a run. They're the 6th seed, so shout out to Jerry Stackhouse what he's done. They finished 6th in the SEC. They were above Arkansas this year. And if anyone told in the beginning of Vanderbilt finished over Arkansas, you would have been just crazy. But I think Vandy can make a run. They already beat Kentucky once this year in their last game rate, or earlier last week. They could do it again. But really, I think it's going to end up being – I think Mississippi State has a must-win game against Florida to get into this tournament. Right now, I think they're sitting out of it. If you have them in, they're probably like the last team in. I think they're going to have to beat Florida for sure. Without Colin Cowston, have to beat Florida. And then maybe have to beat Bama to get in. If they beat Florida, then they're going to need help because right now UNCW is tied with Charleston in the CAA championship, and that's a bid steal because if Charleston doesn't make it and they lose this game, they got 30 wins. They should be in. So Mississippi State's going to need help if they lose to Alabama. Tennessee, we're going to see how they play without Zakai Ziegler. I imagine that they're going to be able to get to Missouri and win their first game, but I really like Missouri against Tennessee. They beat them on the buzzer beater earlier this year. In Missouri, man, I love the way they play. Kobe Brown's a beast. And then without Zakai Ziegler, their point guard, I think Tennessee, maybe a lot of teams are just bailing on them because of that, but I might be one of those guys. The Arkansas-Auburn game is a huge game. I think both these teams are in the tournament. I wouldn't say regardless, because I think Auburn's in regardless. Arkansas may not be if they lose, and depending on other things, but I think they're both going to be in. I like Arkansas to win this game, though. With Nick Smith back, I know they're 2-3, but they're playing. I swear they're just playing better. They had a tough road here, and I don't love Auburn this year. I think Arkansas can make a run to the semifinals, if not the championship. And in that Vanderbilt-Kentucky game, assuming it happens, will be a huge game for both teams. Vanderbilt would be fighting. Vanderbilt probably needs to get to the championship game to have a chance to get in. And they could definitely do that. But honestly, I think that it's Alabama versus Kentucky in the championship. I think A&M could do it. I think Arkansas could do it. But I think it's Bama in the top for sure. And then it's Bama. Now it's a Kentucky, Texas A&M, and Arkansas. But give me Bama versus Kentucky in the championship game. And give me Bama to win the SEC championship and be the third overall seed. Because I had Kansas winning it. I'm going to have Houston winning their conference tournament. I'm going to have Arizona winning the Pac-12 because I'm not doing a video on that. And I had Miami win. I've had a lot of the one seeds. So I don't love to have all these one seeds winning the conference tournament because I might have even had Purdue. Did I have Purdue or I think I had Indiana in my Big Ten preview. I don't even remember what I said, but I really hope I said Indiana. So I think Indiana might do it. Anyways, doesn't really matter that much. I think Alabama, if they get to the championship, will be a 1 seed regardless. And Kentucky will be playing for a 5 or a 6 seed probably in Texas A&M. Same thing, maybe a 4 if they win. But give me Bama to win the SEC. My sleeper team is Vanderbilt and Arkansas. But Mississippi State has a must-win game, and Vanderbilt has to make a run to get in. But I think every other team inside that top, besides Florida, with Arkansas, Bama, Auburn, Missouri, Texas A&M, and Texas are guaranteed in. And then there's 2 bubble teams. So there's my prediction there. My dark horse is Arkansas and Vanderbilt, and my team to win it all is Alabama. I hate to say it, but Alabama, man. This was an Alabama-type episode. So if you're an Alabama fan, hope you enjoyed this episode. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. The SEC is always a fun conference, and the conference tournament is always a good one. Thanks for watching. Peace out.